Hello, welcome and welcome back to my channel. So if you've ever felt like money is stressful, then this video is for you. Now, if you're like me, then you were probably never really taught about money and you probably didn't have money conversations with your family either. And so when you now go into adulthood, the same things happen. So I actually used to find money very stressful. I had no idea what was coming in or what was going out. I could never tell you how much I was spending. And to be honest, I would always be afraid to kind of have those money conversations with family and friends as well. Now, over time, when I started working on my money journey and my personal finances, I realized that one key thing had been holding me back and probably causing the most amount of stress when it came to money, and that was my thoughts around money. And so in this video, what I want to do is talk about how your thoughts about money can also be a direct link to the stress you might also have about money, and how if you're able to overcome those thoughts, then things might start to get easier. And I will definitely say that I'm a testament to that, and my clients are a testament to that as well, because when you really start to work on your own beliefs and thoughts about money, and when you start to change them, suddenly things around you start to change and money no longer becomes a stressful topic. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thought that might be stopping you from overcoming the money stress is the thought that I'm just too scared to talk about money and therefore I can't have any money conversations. And I think this is completely normal, especially if we think about our Western countries, particularly in the UK, because as a nation, we are just not used to talking about money. It's just something that we don't really do. We don't really talk about money to our colleagues or our friends. And so I'm not surprised that many people are going to have this thought. But I think the one thing that I realized is if I'm not able to have any of those money conversations, if I'm struggling with something, well, who's going to help me? If people aren't aware of my problem, then they're not going to be able to help me because I haven't actually communicated that to them. Now, being clear, I am not telling you to now start shouting around, telling everyone your business, but what I'm saying is really think about, either those closest to you or someone that you can actually talk to in confidence. If you're able to now start having those money conversations, you might find that the person you're able to open up to could potentially help you. And I could definitely use myself as an example with this, because when I was in debt and I was trying to pay it off, I actually decided to tell my partner at the time. He's now my husband, but what I did is I told him how much debt I was in, how I was trying to pay it off. And this actually really helped me because number one, it meant that he could hold me accountable for it, but also number two, it meant that he understood. So if there were things that maybe I thought about not doing, like going on extravagant dates at the time because I was trying to pay off my debt, he would understand that, and so he wouldn't mind us being a bit more creative because he knew that I had a plan with my money. And so if you are someone that maybe has the thought of being very scared to have money conversations, especially if you think that maybe someone might judge you, I would say try to find maybe one person that you can trust and have those conversations where you know they're not going to judge you, where you can really open up and get the help that you need. But I definitely think that even as a society, we need to talk about money more often, because at the end of the day, most of us will have to deal with money in some way. So we may as well just make money a part of our normal conversation. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, I'm sure you know it's free. Now, the second thought that might be stopping you from overcoming this money stress is the thought that money content frightens me. Now, I didn't actually think about this until one of my clients told me, and she mentioned that, sometimes when she's watching YouTube videos or she's trying to read blogs, things can overwhelm her and the money content actually scares her. And I could definitely see why, because let's say that you're maybe new to investing, you've never done investing before in your life. If you end up watching some of these videos where they're talking about index funds and ETFs and active investing and passive investing, everything may seem quite overwhelming. Or even if you're a complete beginner when it comes to things like budgeting, if you're seeing a content creator who has their budget on lock, but you've never budgeted in your life, then it can feel overwhelming, and just looking at all of these numbers can also seem quite frightening as well. Now, obviously, coming from someone who actually produces content on here and things like Instagram, I would say that taking it back when I first started learning about money, one thing that I realized is that even though some videos or content might be overwhelming, that's not going to stop me from learning. What it means is that number one, I may just have to keep learning until something clicks, or I might end up doing a bit of trial and error and try to find someone who actually explains it in layman's terms so that I can understand it. What I would also say is try to find content where you can learn quite easily. So for example, if you don't like YouTube videos, maybe you go on someone's Instagram page, or if you don't like Instagram, maybe you go on someone's blog, or maybe you purchase a course or a program program where you can just take the time and learn at your own pace. Whatever route you choose, I would definitely encourage you not to give up, but just keep trying to find someone that's going to help you understand money better. Now, the third thought that might be stopping you from overcoming that money stress is the thought that I never have enough money. Now, let me tell you, I actually used to have this thought all the time, especially when I graduated from my master's, but the job I had was pretty much less than the average salary in London, and I was living in the southeast of England, so it wasn't cheap where I was living. I literally always had the thought that I never have enough money and that I will always be living paycheck to paycheck. But I realized that that thought was also making money stressful for me. And I say that because it made me feel like I would always be broke. It made me feel like I would never be able to, you know, become financially independent or build wealth over time because I never had enough money. But then when I started to think about it, I realized that I was actually in a very privileged position. I could afford to pay for food, I could afford to pay for shelter, I could afford to pay for transport, and I could also afford to pay for clothes. So really, when I looked at it, me saying that I never had enough money purely just came from a scarcity mindset where I just felt like I would never have enough, and even if I did make more money, I would probably have those same thoughts if I didn't work on them. And so what I decided to do is actually change those thoughts to thinking that, you know, no matter how much I'm making, I do have enough money. And when I started thinking about that, guys, I was able to pay off over £16,000, which is maybe around $22,000 worth of debt in about 18 months, and my income hardly changed. And the biggest thought I had was actually I do have enough money. And during the time that I was paying off my debt, I was still able to live my life, and I was also able to give money back as well. So if you're someone like me where you are able to afford a place to live and you're able to pay for things like heating, groceries, transport, then really appreciate the money that you have and start thinking that actually I do have enough money. The question is, how can I work with the money that I have? And then after that, how can I expand on what I have? Because we do have to be careful. If you continue to have those thoughts, even if you do start making more money, let's say you get a promotion, or let's say you start a side hustle, you may continue to think that you don't have enough money, and consequently you'll then continue to live paycheck to paycheck. So focus on what you currently do have, not what you don't have. Now, the next thought that might be stopping you from overcoming that money stress is the thought that I need to treat myself whenever I get stressed. Now, first of all, before I go on, I want to be clear that I'm not saying don't ever treat yourself. 100%, we should always be trying to enjoy the life that we have. But what I'm saying is really think about where that's coming from. So for example, if you feel like you're maybe stressed at work, if you then take that out on your spending, well, what's going to happen is that you'll just end up overspending on things that you don't really care about. Then once you've done that, you've spent all your money, and so money will then become even more stressful. And so what I'm trying to say is, of course, there are going to be stresses that happen in your life, but when you're trying to overcome that stress, how can you do it from a place where it doesn't negatively impact your personal finances? So let's say, for example, that I'm always stressed at work. Well, rather than me just using the time to impulse spend and buy some clothes that I'm probably not going to wear anyway, can I think about doing something different? Maybe if you've been stressed at work, you decide that actually you want to take a day to just rest and not do anything. And if you're at a point where you do want to buy clothes, you're buying it from a place of actually buying clothes that you want, that you've planned for, and not buying clothes on the impulse because you've been stressed at work. So I really hope you can see the difference here. If you are treating yourself, where is that coming from? Is that coming from the stress, or is that coming from a place where you genuinely just want to treat yourself? Now, the next thought that might be stopping you from overcoming the money stress is the thinking that you don't have a problem. Now, I wanted to actually make this point because especially during lockdown, I feel like a lot of us knew we had problems, for example, when it comes to managing money. But then when we were in lockdown, because we couldn't spend money, we therefore saved money and thought that the problem was fixed. And so we thought that all of our money troubles had been handled and everything was okay. When in reality, just because you didn't spend during lockdown does not mean that the root problem has been fixed. What it just meant is that you had no choice but to not spend money. But let's say that now things have opened up and you have been spending money, and maybe you've even spent your savings from the lockdown. Well, then you may have to understand that the core problem, the core issue has not necessarily been fixed. So if you realize that you've just been using the lockdown as a band-aid solution and the wound is still there, well, then you now need to start thinking, how can I fix the problem? How can I start working on managing my money money to the point where I don't need the whole world to shut down in order for me to save money. I can still save money no matter what season I'm in. Now, if you realize that these thoughts do resonate with you and you feel like you may need help in fixing the root problem when it comes to your money, then definitely check out my one-on-one coaching, where I can help you overcome some of these thoughts so that you can genuinely start managing your money better. You'll be able to save, you'll be able to invest, and really live a stress-free life when it comes to money. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free call to find out more. So I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel, and let me know in the comments, do any of these thoughts resonate with you? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.